Now listen to me carefully. A lot of people think a woman without a man must be sad. Society teaches women from a young age that happiness only comes when somebody chooses you, marries you, texts you every morning, or stands beside you. But let me tell you something real. Some women finally find peace the moment they stop chasing love from people who never valued them in the first place. A woman who learns to love alone is not weak. She is powerful because she stopped begging for attention and started protecting her peace. See, a lot of people misunderstand women who choose solitude. They think if a woman is spending time alone, not constantly chasing relationships, not posting for validation, or not depending on a man emotionally, then something must be wrong with her. But sometimes the strongest decision a woman can make is learning how to stand by herself without fear. Because when a woman spends years being disappointed, ignored, lied to, or emotionally drained, eventually she reaches a moment where she gets tired of carrying pain just to keep somebody around. You see, some women spent so much time giving love to people who never truly appreciated them. They answered every call, stayed loyal through disrespect, forgave things that broke their heart, and still ended up feeling empty. After enough heartbreak, a woman starts realizing that peace matters more than attention. She begins to understand that being alone is not a punishment. In many cases, it becomes healing. It becomes the place where she finally reconnects with herself. A woman who learns to love alone starts discovering her own value. She no longer wakes up wondering if somebody will text her back. She no longer measures her worth based on who chooses her. Instead, she starts building confidence from within. She learns how to enjoy her own company. She starts focusing on her goals, her mental peace, her future, and her emotional health. That kind of growth changes a woman completely. Now, let me tell you something important. When a woman stops begging for attention, people suddenly notice her more. Why? Because confidence is powerful. Peace is attractive. A woman who is comfortable being alone carries a different energy. She is no longer desperate for approval, and that makes her stronger than most people realize. She can walk away from toxic situations because she is not afraid of loneliness anymore. A woman like this understands that protecting her heart is more important than entertaining temporary love. She would rather sleep peacefully alone than cry every night beside somebody who does not value her. That does not make her bitter. That makes her wise. She learned that self-respect is more valuable than forcing connections that only bring pain. And once a woman truly learns that lesson, her standards change forever. When a woman no longer depends on a man for happiness, her confidence changes, her energy changes, and everybody notices it. There is something powerful about a woman who finally realizes that her joy does not have to come from somebody else. For a long time, many women are taught to believe that happiness only comes through relationships, marriage, attention, or constant validation from a man. Society makes it seem like a woman is incomplete if she is alone. But the moment a woman breaks free from that mindset, everything about her begins to transform. See, a woman who depends completely on somebody else emotionally often lives in fear. Fear of being left, fear of being replaced, fear of not being enough. She waits for texts to feel important. She waits for compliments to feel beautiful. She waits for attention to feel loved. And when that attention disappears, her confidence disappears with it. That kind of emotional dependence can slowly drain a person without them even realizing it. But when a woman starts finding happiness within herself, her entire spirit changes. She starts waking up with purpose instead of anxiety. She begins investing time into herself, her goals, her peace, and her healing. She learns how to enjoy life without constantly needing reassurance from somebody else. And once she reaches that point, her confidence becomes natural instead of forced. You can see the difference in the way she carries herself. She no longer chases people who ignore her. She no longer lowers her standards just to avoid being alone. She stops over-explaining herself to people who do not value her. Instead, she becomes calmer, stronger, and more emotionally balanced. A woman who has learned to create her own happiness walks differently because she knows her worth is not controlled by somebody's opinion of her. Now, let me tell you something interesting. When a woman no longer needs validation, people suddenly start respecting her more. Why? Because confidence attracts attention naturally. Desperation pushes people away, but self-respect draws people in. A woman who is emotionally secure creates a peaceful energy around herself. She is no longer trying to prove she deserves love because she already understands her value. That kind of woman becomes very hard to manipulate. You cannot control her with silence, mixed signals, or temporary affection because she already found peace within herself. She knows that her happiness is her responsibility, not somebody else's job. And that understanding changes everything about her relationships, her mindset, and the way she allows people to treat her. A lonely woman cries for company, but a healed woman enjoys her own silence because she finally knows her worth. There is a big difference between a woman who feels empty when she is alone and a woman who has learned how to find peace within herself. Many people think silence is sadness, but sometimes silence is healing. Sometimes it is the first moment a woman finally escapes the noise, confusion, and emotional pressure that has been draining her for years. You see, a lonely woman often believes she needs somebody beside her to feel complete. She fears quiet moments because they force her to face emotions she has been avoiding. She may stay in unhealthy relationships, tolerate disrespect, or hold on to people who constantly hurt her simply because she is afraid of being alone. That fear can make a woman settle for less than she deserves. It can make her ignore red flags just to keep somebody close. But a healed woman is different. A healed woman has already walked through pain. She has cried the tears, survived the disappointments, and carried heartbreak in silence. She knows what it feels like to give her heart to the wrong people and lose herself trying to make them stay. And somewhere during that journey, she begins to understand something powerful. She realizes that loneliness is not cured by relationships. It is cured by self-love, self-respect, and inner peace. That is why a healed woman can sit alone without feeling broken. She does not panic when her phone is quiet. She does not feel worthless without constant attention. Instead, she learns how to enjoy her own company. She starts protecting her energy instead of giving it away freely to people who do not appreciate it. She discovers hobbies, dreams, passions, and goals that make her feel alive outside of relationships. Now listen carefully, because this is important. When a woman finally knows her worth, she stops accepting things that once damaged her emotionally. She no longer begs for love. She no longer chases people who only give her temporary affection. She becomes more selective with who enters her life because she understands that peace is expensive and not everybody deserves access to it. A healed woman also carries a quiet confidence. She does not need to prove herself loudly because her strength comes from experience. She learned that real happiness cannot depend entirely on another person. It has to come from within. And once a woman reaches that level of emotional maturity, her silence no longer feels empty. Her silence becomes comfort. It becomes strength. It becomes the place where she finally feels safe with herself again. The strongest women are the ones who can sit alone at night, fight their own battles, and still wake up with love in their heart. A lot of people only notice a woman's beauty, her smile, or the way she carries herself, but they never see the silent war she fights behind closed doors. They never see the nights she spends crying quietly so nobody hears her pain. They never see the moments when she feels emotionally exhausted, but still forces herself to stay strong for everybody around her. Real strength is not always loud. Sometimes real strength is surviving things that almost broke you while still choosing kindness afterward. See, many women carry pain silently. They continue showing love even after betrayal. They continue helping others even when nobody helps them. They continue waking up every morning with responsibilities, pressure, heartbreak, and emotional stress sitting heavy on their shoulders. Yet somehow they still keep moving forward. That kind of strength is rare. A strong woman is not somebody who never feels pain. She feels everything deeply. She gets disappointed, hurt, ignored, and emotionally drained just like anybody else. The difference is she learns how to keep going without letting bitterness destroy her spirit. She may sit alone at night questioning herself, wondering why certain people hurt her, wondering why love sometimes feels unfair, but she does not allow those moments to turn her cold-hearted. Now, let me tell you something important. It takes real strength to keep love in your heart after life has disappointed you. Anybody can become angry, bitter, or emotionally closed off after being hurt repeatedly. But a truly strong woman still believes in goodness even after heartbreak. She still chooses respect even after disrespect. She still chooses peace instead of revenge. That does not mean she is weak. It means she has emotional maturity. A woman like this learns how to become her own support system. She stops waiting for somebody to save her emotionally. She learns how to comfort herself during hard times. She becomes independent mentally and emotionally because life forced her to grow stronger. And once a woman develops that kind of resilience, people start noticing a different energy around her. She becomes calmer under pressure. She becomes wiser with her choices. She no longer breaks down over temporary situations because she already survived things much harder. The truth is, some of the strongest women you will ever meet are carrying battles nobody knows about. They smile while healing. They continue loving while recovering from pain. They continue believing in themselves even after rejection and disappointment. And that quiet strength makes them powerful in a way words can barely explain. A woman who loves herself first will never allow disrespect, half love, or fake loyalty into her life again. Once a woman truly learns her value, everything about the way she handles relationships begins to change. She no longer settles for confusion disguised as love. She no longer accepts excuses from people who only show effort when it benefits them. And most importantly, she stops abandoning herself just to keep somebody else comfortable. See, many women spend years giving chances to people who never deserve them. They stay loyal through lies, forgive repeated disrespect, and keep hoping somebody will finally change. Sometimes they ignore the pain because they are afraid of losing the relationship. Sometimes they believe loving harder will fix everything. But eventually, after enough heartbreak, a woman reaches a point where she becomes tired emotionally. She realizes that constantly accepting less than she deserves slowly destroys her confidence and peace. That is when self-love begins to change her mindset. A woman who truly loves herself starts paying attention to actions instead of empty words. She understands that real love should bring peace, honesty, effort, and emotional security. She no longer gets impressed by temporary attention or sweet talk with no consistency behind it. Her standards become stronger because her self-respect becomes stronger. Now, let me explain something important. A woman who loves herself is not difficult to love. She simply refuses to tolerate behavior that damages her emotionally. There is a difference between being demanding and having standards. A healed woman knows she deserves honesty, loyalty, respect, and genuine effort. She is not asking for perfection, but she is no longer willing to accept fake love that leaves her feeling emotionally empty. This kind of woman also becomes harder to manipulate. You cannot control her with mixed signals, disappearing acts, or temporary affection because she already knows her worth. The moment she notices inconsistency, dishonesty, or disrespect, she becomes willing to walk away instead of begging somebody to treat her better. Why? because she finally understands that protecting her peace matters more than forcing relationships that only bring stress and confusion. And let me tell you something powerful about self-love. When a woman starts choosing herself first, her confidence becomes natural. She no longer competes for attention. She no longer seeks validation from people who cannot see her value. Instead, she focuses on building a life that makes her proud. She pours energy into her healing, her goals, her happiness, and her future. A woman who loves herself first understands one important truth. Real love should never require her to lose her dignity, silence her pain, or sacrifice her self-respect just to keep somebody around. And once she learns that lesson, she will never go back to accepting less than she deserves again. The truth is, some women are not waiting for a man to complete them because they already completed themselves. A lot of people struggle to understand this kind of woman because society has spent years teaching women that their success, beauty, and happiness depend on whether somebody chooses them. From a young age, many women are told that finding the right man is the final achievement, as if their life only becomes meaningful once they are loved by somebody else. But some women eventually discover something deeper. They realize that real